Okay, so this is a guide to strength and arbiters in general. So hard arbiter is no longer endgame content, I guess. It's like mid-game now. So this is not a tier list or like a gear list. I'm not going to say everything like whether it's good or bad. I'm just going to give some fleet building tips and strategies to deal with the hard arbiter. And then I'll make like example fleets that are kind of weak, and hopefully they should still defeat arbiter. So first, I'm talking about hard arbiter. I don't care about normal arbiter, because for normal arbiter you can just leave and heal your ships and then come back and fight the arbiter again until it's dead. For hard arbiter you get 4 fleets and that's it, no healing. If you leave, then the boss also heals back to full HP. So the first step, like anything you do in this game, you should read. So turn off fleet lock and go step on the boss, and then you can see here that it's medium armor, and then it has 3 skills, or 4 if you count this. So reading these skills is very important. This is February, and February it's always strength. If you go on the wiki and go to Operation Siren, and then like here there's Arbiter. So this month it's strength, and every 4 months it's strength again. And in fact, every February the strength will have the same 3 skills. So like February of this year, February of next year, they're the same identical strength. If you're fighting strength in another month like May or August, then they'll have different skills. And November strength is the hardest one by far, due to these 3 skills. So like this skill is just the hardest skill to deal with across all arbiters, and this one is also really dangerous. So November's hard arbiter is the hardest hard arbiter of the whole month, the whole year. But fortunately for me, I'm in February, and this one is maybe below average difficulty. So back to the game, let's read the skills. So enemy gains 50% increased AA, and that means that your carriers deal less damage to the boss, but not by much. It's something to consider. Like if you have a weak carrier fleet, then you might consider bringing 3 battleship fleets and only 1 carrier fleet. But a strong carrier fleet is better than a weak battleship fleet, even if the boss has increased AA. So like basically just bring strong fleets. And next is when the enemy's below 30% HP, it can block shelling damage. Shelling damage means anything that scales off of firepower, so mainly it's going to be blocking your battleships, which means that you should use your battleship fleets first, and then when the enemy's below 30% HP or close to below 30, then use your carrier fleets, because carrier fleets don't use much shelling damage. So then this skill is basically nullified if you just bring carrier fleets last. It's only going to block your vanguard damage, your vanguard gun damage from your carrier fleet. And the third skill, strength always has this, so it deals 50% increased damage to your vanguard fleet. But we'll see later that this doesn't really matter either. And this is why. So sometime into the battle, which is like when there's 37 seconds left, and the battle starts at like 127, and so after 50 seconds, the boss will gain a shield that blocks all damage. And this shield has like, you need to deal like 200,000. It's on the wiki as well. So it blocks 160,000 HP of damage, but it's also taking 25% decreased damage, so like basically 200,000. And 200,000 is a pretty high bar to beat. So if you're mid-game and you actually do need this guide, then your fleets are probably not going to break that shield, which means that you only get 50 seconds of damage per battle. And if you can break that shield, then you probably don't need this guide. Although reading is still nice. And adaptability, so the boss has 156, which means that you get the maximum bonus when you're at least 203. So 203 offense, 203 survival, and 156 tactics. Although tactics doesn't really matter, it just affects your healing, and you don't need healing in a boss fight. So just have at least 203 in both offense and survivability. For tactics, you can leave it low, like I did. So I took off half of my cats, and I'm gimping my strength. Strength on purpose. Although if you have better stuff than I do, then you should use it. Like for example, I'm using 0 tech. You should use however max tech you have, whatever the max you have is. And I'm using 1 cat per fleet. You should use 2 cats. And I may be using some budget ships or budget gear. You should use the best that you have. So let's start with submarines. Submarines are really important because you can use them in all 4 battles. So even if your submarine fleet only does like 5% of the boss's HP per battle, you can use them 4 times, and that's 20% of the boss HP for free. I mean, for free versus using not submarine. So put both submarines, your highest level ones. I'll just use some budget submarines, like the 3 of the worst gold submarines, and they're at level 120. And we'll deal with the gear later. So here you have 4 fleets. Normally in Upside you have a mob fleet and 3 boss fleets, or whatever fleet you want them to be. But for Arbiter, if you need to defeat Arbiter, like if you need help against hard Arbiter, then you don't use a mob fleet, because mob fleets are not boss fleets. So like usually you would have Unicorn in your mob fleet. And against a boss like hard Arbiter, where you need all 4 fleets, you don't want Unicorn unless she's way better than whatever 12th main fleet ship you have. So let's start with carriers, I guess. Carriers over here. So in single target bossing, with your carrier fleets, you always want a slow or a freeze, which are implacable. Or August. August is easy to get from PR4 and easy to max as well, now that you can coin and catch up. And some older options like Arc Royal and I don't remember. Not Formidable, and Formidable is really hard to use, or freeze. So it's basically just these 3, like Arc, August, and Implacable. So I'll take the easy to get budget option like August. And then you put two damage carriers. So the boss is medium armor. So strength is. So well, it doesn't really matter. You still put your two highest damage carriers. And it's better, by the way, to stack your strongest ships on 1 fleet instead of spreading them out over 2 fleets. Because in that 1 fleet, you can, for example, you can put Helena, and Helena will boost your whole fleet damage. So it's better to put the strong ships together. And if you don't have enough strong ships, then you put the leftovers in the last fleet. So I'm looking for another damage carrier that's Obviously I can just put rainbows, but I want to pretend to be a new player, so like Saratoga, for example. I don't even have her augment though. And actually I'll deal with the Vanguard later, so I'll make a battleship fleet first. So when building the battleship fleet, you want to keep in mind some battleships need to be in the flagship position, and there's only one flagship slot in the fleet. For example, a Nagato and some other common ones like Hood and Monarch, they require the flagship position. If they're off flag, then their barrage hits nothing, and then they do no damage. So, for example, I'll put Monarch in the flagship position, that's the leftmost. And then I want 2 more battleships that can be off flag. And by the way, we put carriers together and battleships together instead of mixing their battleships and carriers because it's easier to take advantage of buffs and debuffs when they're of the same type, as well as timing wise. It's harder to time a freeze like August to other battleships. And not to mention that some Vanguard ships like Kazagumo, she just buffs carriers only, she doesn't buff battleships, so it wouldn't make sense to put battleships together with carriers here. If you run out of good battleships and good carriers, then like in your last fleet or last 2 fleets, then you just put whatever you want and it's okay to mix. So back to battleships. 2 off-flag battleships that are good. For example, Hao is one of the better gold battleships nowadays. So the problem with battleships is that rainbow battleships are way better than gold battleships, except for Warspite. Warspite is like an average gold, and some golds are almost as good as FTG embossing. But anyways, let's say that FTG is easy to get, because she kinda is, and she is a priority to get early. So that's a battleship fleet. And these 2 are the strongest fleets, so I can fill in the Vanguard right now. So most people put Helena with the battleships because it's easier to time them with Helena. Because when you have low reload tech and a limited airplane choice, then carriers are kinda slow to take advantage of Helena's debuff window. Although for strength, that won't be a problem because you only get 50 seconds of damage, which means in 50 seconds you can do you can reload airstrikes 2 times. And it's really easy to get those airstrikes in time for Helena's debuff before she stops the debuff. Now 50 seconds is enough for 3 salvos of battleships, but only if you use really fast guns like 4x7. And even then it's kinda stretching it. So basically for battleships and for CVs as well, you only get 2 strikes or 2 salvos. And that's all you're planning for. And usually you want to put a tank in the first slot of every fleet, because it's a good idea to keep your ships alive. Dead ships don't do damage, and some dead ships like Kazagumo don't provide buffs. So tanks are like Azur. You can use her even at Zev 25, you don't need Zev 30 for this. And then for the final BB slot, Obviously Ply would be the optimal choice here. But completing PR5 is kind of a little past mid-game. So like, I'll pretend I don't have limit. And instead I'll just put some random DPS in, because battleships kind of lack good buffers. So if I just put a random DPS right here. For carriers we want a tank again, so like Anchorage. And I already put Kazagumo in for her 15% carrier damage buff. Sirius is actually stronger than Kazagumo against strength. Like Sirius is stronger whenever her buff works. So like against enemy DDs, CLs, and CAs. And besides, Sirius doesn't have to stay alive in order to provide the buff. So if she dies early, it's not a big deal. And I'm trying to use fewer level 125s. So like, I'm using Saratoga and Al and Monarch for example, but the good Vanguards are already 125, so I'll just use 125s. Now we have 2 other fleets, so I'll try to put together a second carrier fleet. Arc is the slow. He slows the boss and allows the others to hit more easily. And then I need to put some random carriers that are not too bad. Actually, I can have some fun and put the foxes here. And then for extra fun, put a Nagato here. Wherever she is. She's 125. So in case you haven't heard this before, faction fleets suck. I mean, they don't actually suck, but they're just worse than using good ships of mixed factions. And it's really rare that your faction fleet is stronger than whatever mixed fleet you can put together. But it's decent to put just a few of the same faction. So I'm not going to put 6 Sakura ships, but if I put like these 3 together, they're okay. Well, actually the foxes aren't okay. Because even in 50 seconds, they're not going to get 3 strikes with their half reload. So I should just put carriers that actually do damage. Like this. So more faction feeding. Like usually it's a bad idea again. I want another battleship fleet because I pretend that I ran out of good carriers already. Most people have Hood, I guess. And then 2 other, like Nelson is good. And Duke is good. So first slot, we need a tank. Azuma is a tank. I'll put her in the other fleet though. For more faction buffs. By the way, if you haven't heard, faction fleets suck. Like any tank will work, like Portland, even, so 120 Portland, because they only have to survive for 50 seconds. And after 50 seconds, in fact, you might want to kill your Vanguard as quickly as possible after the boss shield goes up in order to keep your submarines safe. Because submarines die. If they die, then you can't summon them into the next battle. So you want the battle to end before the submarines run out of oxygen and surface. Here's a battleship fleet, and battleship have few buffers. I ran out of buffers already, so I'll just put some random DPS. Like here. And here. And same deal with this. So if you have other ships with air raid assistance, then you can put them underneath the carrier fleet. But they're not exactly easy to come by, and you might not have them. So I'll just put some Starter Destroyer and some other random beginner friendly ship. Okay, these fleets look really solid, according to me. There is one thing, so here, well, the main fleet position doesn't matter here, but if you have New Jersey in another fleet, then New Jersey's cross-fleet skill requires the Eagle Union Courier to be in the flagship position. So you don't put August here, you put Enterprise here. Or Saratoga if you're using Saratoga for some reason. And obviously Nagato needs the flagship position, and Hood and Monarch both need it as well. So I'll just make the gear one fleet at a time, and then like after I make the one fleet's gear, then I'll fight the boss. Because here's a tip, you can move gear between those fleets, so like you can put your best gear on this fleet and fight the boss with it, and then strip them and move all the best gear to your other battleship fleet over here, and then now you can use your best gear for every fleet. Like for example, if you have only one Tenrai, then you can put it on Enterprise and then fight the boss with this fleet, and then move the Tenrai to Zuikaku and fight the boss with this fleet. So you can reuse your best gear. And submarines, of course, you have to summon them into the map first. So since the boss has that armor overload skill, then I want to use the battleship fleets first, as I explained. So you can use your strongest fleet first, like this one. And by the way, you can leave the battle if it is not going well. So if you enter the battle and then Helena procs 0 times and is basically useless, you can quit the battle and it'll reset the boss's HP to before the battle, and also reset your ship's HP to before the battle. So you can keep quitting the battle until Helena gets 2 out of 2 radar scans if you want. So let's talk about here. We get 50 seconds of damage, and as I said, it's hard to get 3 salvos with those fast guns, and fast guns do really little damage anyways. So we're going to use 20-second axes, 20-second guns. They can sync with Helena as well. That's a benefit. So obviously the best gun right now against medium is this gun, against medium and heavy. And you should get plenty of these anyways. From here, prototype shop. And you should have some prototype core from analyzing combat data experience. So you just buy this Series 3 and then convert it to those battleship guns. And this is where you get protocore from. You do not use these for the XP, use them for protocore, like that. Let's get back to gear. So I can just put this gun on everyone, on all the battleships, like this, this, and this. And you should have some plus 13s, I guess. But not a lot of plus 13s, probably. So, of course, I put the strongest gun, the plus 13, on the ship who deals the most main gun damage. And for battleships, now is the time to decide whether you want black and white, so like black and white, or whether you want some kind of HSF CR, high standard fire control radar, and this rainbow table. So the fire control will make your battleships fire earlier. But if we went to read the boss's skills, this time sometimes the boss has a shield every 20 seconds. This time it's not the case for February. So really we don't care about the timing here. So you can use the radar if you want, or just don't use it. Although it might be a good idea to have Monarch fire first. So I'll put the radar on her and black and white on everyone else. Because if Monarch fires first, then her barrage will hit the enemy first and slow the boss by 40%. And that will benefit your other battleships by a little. I'll just put plus 13 here. So again, putting the strongest gear on the strongest ship. It's simple math. For battleship AA guns, always stag for all arbiters. And for the secondary gun, just put any gun with plus 45 firepower. Or if you're really rich, these rainbow guns go on your vanguard first, like VIII and Helena. And if you have extras for some reason, then you don't need this guide. So 45 firepower and 45 firepower. For augments, swords, because the bowgun only does more damage against heavy armor, and this is a medium armor boss. And 20 hit is a lot better than 25 firepower. In fact, 20 hit is like 60 firepower against these arbiters. So sword is a lot better. So that's battleship here, and for Vanguard, at this point you should have augments on everyone. Like especially you only need augments for one fleet, and you can move the augments to the other fleet after the battle. Azur has a slow on torpedo hit, so if you put a really fast torpedo on her like this, then this torpedo might hit the boss before your battleships fire, and then the boss might be slowed if this torpedo does hit. And that buffs your battleship's expected damage, because they're more likely to hit the boss with the shells. For Vanguards, usually it's 134mm. If you don't have this, then just put more stacks, or put random AA guns with no stats bonus. 134 if you have it. I mean, I'll pretend I don't have them. Then, in fact, I want to put this 134 on Chon Chun, so that as a destroyer with lower firepower, she gets a lot more bonus from this 15 firepower than Azur does. And Azur can use a stack so that her torpedo is more likely to hit. Some people call that coping, but more damage is more damage. And for tanks, of course, use this. For cruiser tanks, I mean all cruisers, use the washing machine. And the other slot doesn't really matter. I guess Beaver would be good. For Helena, only Monarch is using the radar, so I don't think she needs a radar here. These are basic gear. I'm not going to explain everything because this is an Arbiter guide, not a gear guide. We just got this missile for free, and it's basically better than the old missile, so use it. And DDGs all want this seal. So that's Fleet 1's gear, and submarines, dagger for everyone. Dagger for every submarine that doesn't have a unique augment. For torpedoes, it's just hitters or G7E. And you probably don't have 6 hitters or 6 G7Es, you can just mix them however you want. Min-maxing subs is not that important, and we don't even know how to min-max subs, because there are way too many factors. But snorkel and hull for all submarines. Technically, some submarines, like the Eagle Union ones, can go without snorkel, but we're playing 4 battles with these subs, and we want them to survive in every battle. So staying underwater for longer is good. This is not magnetic, but it's okay. I mean, you should use G7E or Bitter if you have them. And I'm just being lazy and not putting them. Okay, so now let's get started with this feat. And I want Helena to scan 2 times. Do not use auto submarines. If you use auto submarines, then they get summoned at the beginning of the battle. And if they do that, then they're going to die. So you want to summon subs late enough so that they're still underwater by the time the battle ends. So at around 110 is a good time to summon submarines, and then those subs will come up at like 30 seconds basically. So you want your Vanguard to die before that. And that was a Helena scam. And I summoned subs a little late, but it's okay. And Helena didn't scan, so now it's a good time to leave the battle. Since I'm a new player and I'm struggling against hard Arbiter, I want all the advantages I can get. So I'll reroll until Helena scans 2 times. Submarines here. And I actually missed other Helena scan time. If she scans this time, then I'll leave it. I'll continue the battle. So that is a scan actually, and my battleships just got their second salvo out, so I want my Vanguard to die as soon as possible so that the submarines can survive. So now we can just turn off auto, and then if you're good enough at pressing the joystick, then move them closer to the boss so that they die faster. Because the boss shield went up and there's no way our subs took damage anyways. Yeah, I guess it's too hard to kill Azur. And Manju on Helena. But like, you can use your battleships and the shield will not break that easily. So, as expected, FDG was the strongest battleship and had the strongest gear, doing double the damage of gold. That's why there's a huge damage difference between rainbow and gold battleships. And submarines also did a lot of damage. And that was 32% HP. And hopefully the subs are still alive. This one's not. So I guess they'll still go into the battle, but they won't have skills. And skills do a lot for submarines. And this is the carrier fleet. I actually want to use the battleship fleet first, because of the boss kill, of course. So we can just remove all the gear here. And put gear here. So I see people putting oxytorps on their Vanguard ships. Don't do it. The Vanguard's job is to survive, and putting Octotorp is just boosting one Vanguard ship's damage by a little, and Vanguard ship damage is a lot lower compared to main fleet damage. So the Vanguard job is to survive, and that's all. And don't ask why, I have 2 Octotorps here. Montpellier does have the augment, I don't have it though. So the anti-air gun doesn't really matter for battleship fleets, but they will matter for carrier fleets. Because for carrier fleets you want to kill the enemy airplanes so that they don't reveal your carriers. I want Duke to shoot first, because she debuffs the enemy when her shell hits, so she should go first, which means Radar here. And I think that's good enough for gear. So, plus 10s, plus 13s, plus 10s, and then... oh, I forgot here. And I ran up 10 out of 155 guys. And submarine gear will stay the same, although I will summon them later this time, that the other 2 don't sink and lose their skills. Submarines now. And now turn on manual and get close to the boss to hopefully die quicker. I guess now there is an argument for Octotorp, because this sub died again, and luckily Aqua retreats quite quickly. So much lower damage than the first fleet did. And submarines are carrying a lot of damage. So I used 2 fleets and the boss is still above half HP, which doesn't look very good. And here I am using 0 tech on the relevant classes. And tech is a pretty large bonus. So even half tech from max can be a 10% or 20% damage bonus for your fleets. This fleet is all carriers. I can use this one first because it has negative. And in Operation Siren, against Siren bosses like Arbiter, the more plus 13s you have, the more damage your ships will do due to the Siren bonus. So plus 13 is 18% more damage compared to plus 10 on weapons. And that is hidden in damage modifier. We have no idea what damage modifier is until you can go look at the wiki. The game doesn't tell you. But this Operation Siren damage boost, 3%. It works on this, for example, on the AA gun. So this AA gun gets level 3 damage modifier. That means it deals 18% more damage to airplanes. But this plus 3% damage boost for Operation Siren, it only works in Operation Siren and only against Siren enemies. This will apply to the whole ship, so that includes the main gun as well as her barrage. So for carriers, there are airplanes, and it looks like Shokaku has strong torpedo bomber slot, and Zuikaku has strong dive bomber slot. If you have one Tenrai only, I mean this goes for any gear, but any dive bomber, you want to put the dive bomber on the strongest slot. And then for the others, just fill with purple Helldivers. And since the boss is medium, of course we want BF109G. And these are, as well, they're good to plus 13. They're very much worth plus 13. And usually you put conversion torpedo bombers here. That's too many plus 13s. Let me try to find a plus 10. So these conversion torpedoes, usually they miss, and rockets also miss unless you have a slow or a freeze, which this fleet doesn't. So I'm expecting a lot of torpedoes to miss. And that's partly why Nagato is bad. Unless you can take advantage of the boss's natural stops, then you don't need a freeze or slow. But in general, Nagato and action buffers are bad. And judging by the last two battles, putting double defensive arcs makes the fleet too healthy. So it is okay to put some offensive gear like this. Although this is expensive and mid-game players probably don't have it. So the budget version here. And destroyers don't have that budget option. By the way, this gun is not worth crafting, so just use this gun instead. They're basically the same, except that this one pops out of tech boxes and is basically free. Same with Rainbow Magnetic Torps versus Gold Quad Magnetic Torps. They're basically the same, except that one is a lot cheaper than the other. So this is a carrier fleet already, and I should have put better anti-air guns, because now the enemy airplane revealed Shokaku, which means she does less damage. And also I forgot submarines. And the Vanguard just died too fast here. I guess both because they're using, these are worse ships. Like Azuma is a worse tank than, well, not Portland, but a lot worse tank than Azur. So putting back survivability. Submarines out. See, some of the torpedoes missed, although most of them hit by luck because the boss was stopped right at that moment. And I forgot the anti-air guns again. And Vanguard's dead again, really fast. So I don't even need to turn off auto for them to die by themselves. This did better than the second battleship fleet. So from 53 down to 35. So even though this skill, 50% increased AA, will decrease carrier damage, the carrier fleet still did more damage than the second battleship fleet. This one. I guess it's just a difference in ship strength. What was that? Oh, I'm out of space. So I'll put gear on this fleet first. So now there's August, and August is difficult to time correctly. So she wants to go second out of 3 carriers, ideally. Because if she goes first or last, then your last or first carrier, respectively, can miss their torpedo bombers. So ideally August is second, but it's hard to tell in game because she has the 12% reload skill, and that doesn't show up in game. The strongest planes on Enterprise, who is the biggest damage dealer. Although she has a weak torpedo bomber slot, it doesn't really matter this one. And I only have 110 Rai, so I can only go with these purple Helldivers. And of course BF-109G for everyone, because it's medium. Let me just eyeball it, and if it's not synced correctly, then it's okay. This is not a sync guide, it's a Fleetbuilding guide. So August 12% reload is usually like 3% off the time, so 23.18 times 0.97 is 2248, and 2248 is slightly faster than Enterprise, so I want Saratoga to be even faster than that, which is not happening. So instead I could put August slower. 2363. And now 2292 is slower than Enterprise, so this is good. And it's not really tight, but I mean they're kind of far apart, but we're only doing 2 strikes, so it's okay to be far apart. Especially Saratoga with like a whole second slower. Actually, Saratoga is a bit too slow. Although I can't do anything about it, so I'll just leave it. Let me put some plus 13s to make sure that I get that last 32% HP on the boss done. Because it would be quite sad to make such a long video and then lose by like 1% HP. Which could be fixed just by using some more tech. So Vanguard here, I need to take from here. And running out of space again. I just want this destroy gun. Oh yeah, carrier fleet, I do want good anti-air, so instead of putting 134s on the Vanguard, I want to put Roombas are the best against strength, because strength and Hermit's planes are so spread out that you need range to hit all of them, or attempt to hit all of them. And Sirius has the strongest AA, I'll put the plus 13 on her. And scrolling through hundreds of guns to find this. For this feat, actually, I can try to break the shield. So if I put better survival on the Vanguard, then maybe if the carriers go 4 strikes, then they can deal a bit more damage after the boss's shield gets broken. Okay, so that's here. And hopefully the anti-air is good enough so that the carriers get concealed for 2 strikes at least. But it's all up to RNG. This is 35%. 35% HP left. And I can actually summon subs whenever I want now because this is the last battle. It doesn't matter if they die. So I'll just summon at like around now. So it'll take them 5 seconds to get in and start firing torpedoes. And while they're firing torpedoes, August will freeze the boss, which boosts submarine hit rate by a little. And that took out half the boss's HP already, which is quite good. Now if only my... And, oh, these suicide boats also reveal the carriers. So I think Enterprise might have gotten... Oh, so the boss shield went up already. I think Enterprise might have gotten the 2nd strike while concealed, but the other 2 didn't. Now I wonder if these carriers can break the shield. Wait, doesn't look like it. And there's not much to change, except well, just putting better gear. Perhaps I summoned subs even earlier. I didn't notice whether they managed to finish firing torpedoes before the boss shield went up. If they didn't, then this could be the difference. Oh yeah, and rolling for Enterprise's Lucky E as well. So that Enterprise did not get lucky, and the damage is off by a lot. So now I turn on manual and try to hide so that the Vanguard can survive for longer. And I'm using some really basic manual skills. Now you want to keep moving left so that they don't get pulled in by the boss. Like Sirius is getting. And it looks like my carriers are too slow to get 4th strike for some reason. And that reason is 0 tech. So anyways, that is a guide to strength. where I failed by just a tiny bit. That battle was like 2 out of 100 left. And adding some more tech or gear could have easily fixed it. So hopefully this guide was helpful, especially the part about reading.